Terrence Stone would say, legendary. Hello and welcome, this is Philip. Today we're going to be talking about something that always makes me excited, which is design. I always love to look at great examples of design, whether it is animation, film, games, or other artists, to be inspired by them or to learn from them. And so today we're going to be looking at Hearthstone, and it undeniably has been a successful digital CCG. And I want to take a look at Hearthstone because I always had a passion for card games. Since the age of 12, I've been creating card games and thinking about card games ideas ever since. And so I want to take a look at Hearthstone and what makes it work and learn from its success. And that's what we're going to be doing today. I just want to preface by saying that I'm in no way an expert on game design. I have a game art background and currently I'm a freelance illustrator. So this is going to be completely my own opinion, but I just want to share with you what I think works and what made them successful in the first place. So let's do this. So before we dive into details and the nitty-gritty, I think it's important to know what created their initial success in the first place. So how I see it, it has a lot to do with branded IP. So what does that mean? Hearthstone is built upon an existing world of Warcraft, we might say. And World of Warcraft is built upon Warcraft. And this is what I think is the brilliance of Blizzard. When I was younger, I used to play Warcraft 3 and Warcraft Frozen Throne, Diablo 2. I would love that game so much. Imagine you have this established world where a lot of people are a huge fan of, and then you expand that world and you expand that IP by bringing out a different game, like an MMO, a huge world, which at that time was insanely successful. So you see the other game that is built upon the same world that you love, of course you're gonna check it out, you're gonna play it. Since it has been such a success, you build even more of a positive experience, a positive association with that IP. From World of Warcraft, you can build another game that is Hearthstone. It's much easier as a fan to also experience that game. From a business point of view, it's pretty low risk usually because you're already taking in that fan base that is included with that expanded world that you created. Of course, if you release a new game, you don't want just your initial fan base, you also want a bigger audience. And the way they've done this is to simplify the game in a way, because here's the thing, they have already made a World of Warcraft trading card game. The thing is, it never got really popularized. I think it was a really cool and interesting card game, but I can see why it never got the success Hearthstone did. Here's the difference. World of Warcraft trading card game had some extra amount of cards, had extra amount of mechanics or complexities that someone who plays a lot of card games would love, but it is that simplicity on the surface of Hearthstone that attracts a variety of people, a greater audience than just your fan base. And this is the brilliance also of how it is presented or how the game design has been made, because it is designed to be easy to learn and hard to master, and that's good. You want it to be simple enough on the surface, but you want to have that deep complexity or deep customization for a more hardcore audience. That's what makes it an appealing game. Appeal is one thing that Blizzard does so well. Let's just state the obvious. Blizzard's art is what is the appeal. There's no doubt in that. I believe like Blizzard has one of the best artists and art direction in the industry and still has till this day. It's what made their game and the appeal to draw people in their created world. Now I can make a whole video about this separately, but just to quickly summarize what I'm talking about, like Blizzard has established that unique art style, that really stylized, whimsical fantasy with a ton of personality. And I like to call that art style an art style that has a lot of charm. Blizzard does that, and also Riot does that. And what charm means to me is just you add so much personality to an art style or a world that's otherwise would be kind of generic, but they're able to put their magic in there. Art is what sells the product. Art is visual. Art is the first thing you see. If that's appealing, that's what you're going to be drawn to, and that's what you're going to be emotionally attached to, because you see characters, you feel emotions when you see things, you feel connection, you can immerse yourself in the world that has been built. Art is the thing that sells your product. Needless to say, a CCG or a card game is 75% just art. So the style has been established. It's what been solid for the Blizzard is in its entirety. But that's not all. They're creating a card game. It's digital, but they're gonna do everything in their power to make it feel tangible. Digital card games are awesome, but nothing beats that tangibleness, that physical, the physicalness of reality. The smell, the opening the packs, the feeling of going through the cards. Here are some World of Warcraft cards. Nothing truly beats this feeling. Yeah, cards. Yeah. So, what does the art team and art direction has to do to achieve that? Everything about it must feel tangible. And not only the artists are at play here, the VFX artists, the UI UX designers, as well. Let's start from the start. Their presentation, full-on genius presentation, like extremely well executed presentation. They all focus on a feeling. And what is that feeling? The feeling of warmth, Hearthstone, which brings you back to the inn in World of Warcraft. Where do you play in Hearthstone? In a tavern, in an inn. We have a lovable character, the dwarf. How are ya? You know, this guy is warm and welcoming. You're coming back to the tavern to play, and you're feeling safe in this warm environment to play and have fun. That setting is the feeling of welcoming, feeling safe, having fun, playing with people. Being in that environment is excellent presentation and building a feeling for you to immerse in. Everything is built around a feeling. So we have the tangibleness, but we also have the feeling, the emotion. The emotion of playing a card game is just as important as the card game in itself. More so, we have an emotion, we have an experience playing games. First loading screen, we get into that tavern, we look at the beautiful box on a table with a beautiful linen cloth that is kind of shiny, and we can almost reach it and feel it. That's already great first impression for a menu. And then we have UI, oftentimes overseen, overlooked, forgotten, not noticed. UI UX is probably the most important thing in a game could have. Now, we often don't notice because most of the time UX and UI designers did a great job. Good job, guys. We don't notice it. You've done an amazing job. When we notice it, that's when it's most of the time not present or they've done a pretty bad job. Everything about this looks fun and simple. Simple is the key word. So UI and UX stands for user experience and user interface. So it's the layout, it's the interface that we're looking at, it's the interface that we are navigating through as players. And so everything is simple, clear. Look at other great examples of UI UX from Apple, for example. Everything is simple. It's limited to just a few options, few steps. It's quick. What brings that eventually? A great experience. UI, UX. Then we have the animation. Animations are so smooth. All the buttons you scroll through have that really nice, smooth, like nice feeling. That's important too. No animation, it feels kind of dead. And the better animation is, basically, the better it's gonna achieve that tangibleness and that experience. And then we have probably the most important thing of all, the sound effects and music. Let me tell you, the music is so well designed. The music gives a game so much power. A music can make or break a game. Don't get me wrong. Inappropriate kind of music can, you know, lead to inappropriate kind of experience. Remember when we said tangible? Tangible. So even the music is designed to give that tangible physical feel. Everything about the music, the percussion, the acoustic guitar, like that's also a good choice. Instead of going for an electric guitar, an acoustic guitar, which is already sounds pretty natural in and of itself. You hear the strings vibrate, you hear a human physically playing it. You have the violins, which is also a very acoustic kind of instrument. Everything coming together, music, UI, UX, animation, presentation, the art that gives you that emotion, everything coming together already in one menu gives you a good impression.
Oh, I can tell you'll have some news stories tonight.
Now let's go to the game. This feeling follows throughout the game, but let's go a little bit more into detail of the game. Let's talk about a match and how you play, right? So we play on this table with this beautiful linen cloth, and now we have this beautiful, almost 3D playing field. And what I love the most about this playing field is that everything has that hand-painted art. Everything is built with hand-painted art, which is so beautiful, man. I love hand-painted art, and everything is so congruent because of it. Because everything is like, has that painterly, hand-painted style. Everything is congruent with that whole whimsical, charming art style, and everything comes together. So we have this beautiful play field. It's so simple, small, and it allows to have space for all the art and the fun things and all the art elements on the play field. And how do they do that? So they make a great effort to minimalize a lot of elements in order to enhance other elements, to enhance a playing experience and to enhance the art and the feel around it. So let's take a look at the card in and of itself. They're going all out with their art and making the card as beautiful as possible, having that banner that flows, that has that overlapping effect. The attack and health are very clear because the rest of the card is pretty monochromatic. They're pretty grayish, even though there's a lot of detail and intricate things going on. If you zoom out a little bit, it's still pretty monochromatic. Your attention goes to the elements that are most important: the name, the cost, the attack, and the health. Those are very few elements, and that works so well because it's simple. There are just a few things that you have to take into account: cost, power, and the health. 3 things. That's the power of this design, which works so great. You have a monochromatic card and then a very colorful icons where your eye is directly paying attention to. And let's talk about the art within the card. So in card games in general, and also in game art, oftentimes when you are creating art or designs or icons, oftentimes in screens, they're gonna look very tiny. And so we as artists, what do we have to do? We have to make sure that every art that we make is readable in very small screens, or when a card is printed out. When a card is printed out, the illustration that you're making on your big screen is gonna come on this small card, right? So everything has to be pretty clear and visible right away. And that's also a very big part in game art too. When you're making smaller icons, like it's gonna be this small and instantly has to read what you're trying to tell, right? What I love also about the playing field itself is that it has that fun interactiveness with the objects around it. Especially for impatient players like me. I just want to click on things in the meantime. Come on, come on. So let's talk about the game design. And this is why I think there are very capable game designers working at Blizzard and in Hearthstone specifically. This is how I think they executed the Easy to learn, hard to master, principle very well. In the frame where the effects are displayed, and then making sure that in that frame of where the effect is readable, it's not overly complex or too much to read or hard to understand. It's just very small, easy to read, easy to see. Instantly you get it and you know what it means. It still allows for a lot of customization within different kinds of effects and allows you to build different kinds of decks, and at the same time it's really easy for a new player to understand what kind of effects it has. As a card game, you're constantly expanding and creating new expansions and content upon itself. Hearthstone never loses its simplicity, and I'm always able to understand it despite the amount of time I've been away from Hearthstone. I can always go back and instantly play it despite being all kinds of content and expansions added to the game. Unlike some games where they add so many content and mechanics and complexities that after a few years you can't even recognize the same game, and it's so overwhelming that you don't even know where to start anymore. I'm looking at you, Yu-Gi-Oh! What is even an XYZ and a pendulum, bro? What is even going on in this card? What's also noteworthy, I think, is also, since it's a full-on digital CCG, it allows itself to do a lot of new and innovative things in terms of mechanics that only a digital card game could, like targeting random characters, adding extra cards in your deck, or some crazy things like that. I only have good things to say about Hearthstone, but here are some tricky parts that I don't really have the answers to, but here's what I think. A lot of people complain about metas. Metas are an optimized way on how to play the game. Figure things out that is the most optimized and most efficient way to play the game, and that brings you the highest results in playing the game using these kinds of options or cards or whatever it may be. I think in a game where you have a lot of possibility for customization, in a game that is so expansive and complicated in that way, you're always gonna have imbalances or ways where metas are going to be created. Now, the other side of that coin is to create a completely balanced game, but in my opinion, I'd rather have a game where there are some imbalances and metas, but a lot of variety and customization and fun, than a completely balanced but boring game. This is just what I think. And maybe there are ways to completely balance a game and still make it fun. In my opinion, I haven't seen like a completely balanced game where everything is equal and still kind of fun. I think there is fun to that wide variety of customization where you can find the meta. I don't necessarily have an answer for that. All in all, I would say Hearthstone is a beautifully designed game and gives players a great experience. It may not be a perfect game. From my point of view, I just see a lot of effort and heart put into it. Guys, this is gonna be it. I hope you enjoyed it. My question of the day is gonna be, what is your favorite part of Hearthstone? Leave that in the comments for me below. Also, if you want, you can give me suggestions for other games. That's gonna be it for now. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.